Naked Gun 2025 is a loose legacy sequel of the Leslie Nielsen films trilogy from the 80s and 90s, originally made by Jerry and David Zucker and Pat Proft. This movie was hyped up by a coworker of mine. I haven't watched it for 3 weeks after release. Trailer didn't get me, but she recommended it and I watched it. And I thought the movie was dreadful. This film, I watched it on like a Wednesday night, theater half full. Wasn't laughing. I wasn't laughing throughout the film. There was a couple chuckles from me and the audience, but there's only like one or two belly laughs. The rest of the movie, just a lot of missed jokes. Like the jokes didn't hit, and there's a lot of them because it's trying to emulate like the original trilogy. Sometimes there's like gags in the back, sometimes there's just goofiness, sometimes, you know, breaking the fourth wall. And this movie wants to try to do that, but it doesn't quite nail it. It almost feels kind of like a soulless puppet trying to worm its way in. So let's get into the plot. We're following Frank Drebin Jr., played by Liam Neeson, and he is a super detective. He's a bit of a goofball because like he'll hit people with his car and he'll just ignore protocol. He stops a bank robbery, and honestly, I was kind of warned. Not just the trailer. The trailer of this film basically shows what kind of movie you're getting. A little girl walks into a police standoff into the bank where it's being taken hostage by villains. The little girl removes her mask and she like literally becomes 3 times bigger to become Frank Drebin in a little schoolgirl dress. And he violently beats up the villains really easily, like in Hot Shots 2 or something, and wins. And so the movie's not trying to hide its nature, but if that trailer didn't make you laugh or make you go, I want to watch that, you're not going to enjoy this film, because the movie broke reality so many times. And maybe the original did too. I haven't seen them in many years. I own it. It's on Netflix right now. But the movie kind of just got really silly because it just didn't, you know, it kind of broke its own internal rules and logic of sorts sometimes, like people just showing up and I just found the movie to be very unfunny. Maybe because, okay, the best part of the movie I felt was Danny Houston. He's the villain. He plays Richard Kane, a sort of industrialist tech guy, and he's hilarious in this movie. I've never really seen Danny Houston in this kind of role before. He usually plays villains or people in period pieces. He's got one of those serious faces, you know, you see him in political stuff or vampire movie, 30 Days of Night. But he's great in this movie. He plays like a kind of immature, kind of like alpha, not too alpha. The thing is, he's hilarious because he's not trying too hard. You know, he'll misunderstand something and it's just hilarious, or his jokes are just better written, I feel. But he's great in the movie, and everyone else is okay, but they don't get much to do. Like Pamela Anderson, she plays the sister of a dead guy, and she's doing her own thing, and you know, there's not a lot of jokes for her. She gets one cool scene in a nightclub, but not a lot of laughs coming from her. She's barely in the movie. Same for Drebin's partner, who is the son of Ed from the first 3 films. He doesn't get to do much in the film. He's only like half an hour of the movie, and there's not a lot of people for Drebin to sort of play off of, I feel. And also the movie's not really edgy or doesn't push the envelope as far. It felt like it was playing very safe. Like it's been like 40 years almost since the original trilogy, and there's a lot of stuff they could have tapped into, like police brutality, police corruption, just, you know, like all sorts of things. Like I feel like Frank Drebin Jr. in this movie doesn't have an arc. You know, you think you don't need that. It's a 90-minute, you know, parody or whatever, but you still kind of need something for him to work off of, because in this movie he just mills about like an idiot and then wins. And I felt like it would have been way better if like they played up the whole he's the son of a super cop, so maybe he's like lazy or something, he doesn't follow protocol, everyone else does, but he gets away with it because he's like the golden boy or something. And like CCH Pounder's in this movie, she's pretty funny for a while, but then she doesn't get much to do either except yell at him. And there's one really funny scene in a bedroom, but I found myself just not belly laughing. Like I was chuckling at some of the little references in the background or little jokes here and there, but I didn't guffaw. It was a really surreal experience because maybe I felt I didn't enjoy it, but my theater wasn't laughing that much either. So I felt the movie could have done a lot better job, because it just felt a little bit it almost felt like a comedian bombing on stage, and you're kind of like trying to be polite, but he's just sort of standing there staring at you like, all right, you know, it's time to laugh. I said the joke now. It's time for you to do your part, and then I'll continue. And you're just kind of like, there's an awkward sort of dead air to the film that just keeps happening over and over. I felt like the movie was on like a different wavelength, because felt like it was maybe trying too hard to copy the original. For example, there are literal jokes that are trying to mimic some of the ones from the first 3 films, but they also have other jokes that are just, they feel stale because we've seen them in other movies. You know, there's other action comedies out there like Wrongfully Accused, even newer ones like Spy, The Spy Who Loved Me, True Lies even. Some of these jokes feel really outdated, and I think maybe they needed a better story, because the story's similar to another action movie that came out recently, and it just they didn't really play up the whole AI or tech thing with the villain or anything like that, and a lot of just like dead air moments, like stuff not happening or just jokes not happening. They needed more set pieces, I feel. So the movie is, you know, it's not dreadful, and I chuckled a few times, but I definitely felt like the movie needed to step up its game a little, because it's, you know, directed by Akiva Schaffer. I really liked Never Stopping, and I also like, it's produced by Seth MacFarlane, whom I enjoy, but this movie just didn't live up to the name. And also, I think I was kind of warned too, because recently Jerry Zucker did an interview with this movie, like information, not movie, film, what's it called? Film something. It's like interviews with filmmakers and producers and things like that. And Jerry Zucker was on there. He was talking about essentially, well, he's still working, and he had a script for Naked Gun 4, and it was going to be like a parody of Mission Impossible and spy films, but it never got made back in the 90s. And then he also had an idea for Airplane 2, but it'd be a parody of The Godfather, but they didn't let him do it because Francis Ford Coppola was doing the 3rd movie, so they made a sequel without him, and it was a cash grab. It didn't do well. And then Jerry Zucker, he's trying to sell this sort of 19 or 20 rules of writing a comedy, and like a masterclass of sorts. And he you know, obviously don't go through all of the rules or whatever, but he definitely talks about certain things you have to abide by. And I think this movie broke a lot of the internal logic, and they never brought him on to sort of supervise or get his blessing, so they did it without him, and it feels kind of underhanded and a cash grab. So that and the trailer not being funny for me warned me off, but I mainly wanted to watch this movie because a podcast I like to listen to, they're going to cover this movie next week, so I just want to listen to that. So overall, The Naked Gun, it's a mixed bag for me. I give it a 5 out of 10.